Let's look at Cameco. First off, read this disclaimer carefully. Cameco is, in this theme, alternative energy. So here you can see some of the companies. You have nuclear, hydrogen fuel, biofuels, mixed and wind. Cameco is today's candidate, a big move from the lows, close to the 52-week highs. Let's first learn a bit more about the company, okay? Cameco is one of the largest global providers of the fuel needed to energize a clean air world. Our Tier 1 operations have the licensed capacity to produce more than 53 million pounds of uranium concentrates annually, backed by 461 million pounds of proven and probable mineral reserves. We are also a leading supplier of uranium refining, combustion and fuel manufacturing services. Utilities around the world rely on our nuclear fuel products to generate power in safe, reliable, carbon-free nuclear reactors. Together, we are meeting the ever-increasing demand for clean baseload electricity while delivering safe, reliable solutions to today's clean air crisis. Let's first jump into the charts. Here you can see weekly data points. Cameco, CCJ is the ticker. This is the very long-term picture. Huge rally leading up into the financial crisis. Total super crash. Let's actually see how deep the crash was. From this high to this recent low, actually, minus 90%. The thing is that this is a rounding bottom that had a huge move. You could make the case that this looks a lot like a very slowly forming rounding bottom. If you measure this move from here to there, that's like approaching, 3000% gain. Huge. We are not that low now, but we have dropped 90%. The interesting developments are rather recent. You can see here that throughout this entire rally, we have struggled with the red 200-week moving average. That's been like the key level, like the bears are in control. The interesting thing is that even though it is still negative, it is smoothing out a bit, and interestingly, we are using it as a support level. We have been tricked by that moving average in the past. This is an instance where we tried but just didn't have the confidence to pull through. But the weakness was apparent throughout. You see, try, pull back, tries, just look at the candlesticks. So even though we were above, you saw continued weakness, very timid behavior. This is something we want to watch out for here. We have had a very impressive move, fantastic, that's great. The percentage gain has also been rather tremendous. From here to this high, 110%, that's great. However, we need to show that we were actually serious about this move. And that is the to be continued story. But this is definitively one to have on your radar for bullish opportunities. Because if we are able to hold these levels and not show this candlestick weakness we had in the past, where we go up and then we lose faith, then, we could see a very significant move for Cameco. And as I will show later in this video, you could actually build a rather strong long-term thesis for nuclear energy. The accumulation distribution line is looking very bullish, actually. Let's zoom out. So this is the highest level the AD line has been at ever since this rally here, which was a fake breakout. That's the caveat. But this is a very sharp increase in buyers. So that corroborates the bullish thesis. The RSI also showing some decent strength. The statistical correlation with the S&P 500 is minus 11%. So basically there is no correlation. That's good for designing a market-neutral portfolio. Yeah, from a technical standpoint, this looks really interesting. And especially longer term, this could be a rounding bottom information. rounding bottoms. I mean, it has worked out extremely well in the past. This is interesting. Of course, this has been a very aggressive move. It would be prudent to consolidate sideways, but if we do, we definitively do not want to see this kind of weakness where the bulls lose faith. Let's look at the daily data points. Okay, let's get the moving averages. Here we recently had a golden cross. We have had that before, so it's not like a super safe signal. We are above all the key moving averages. We have gone from being overbought to cooling down a bit. That's nice to see. I mean, this looks interesting. This definitely looks interesting. The bulls are regaining control. A very sharp V-shaped recovery here. The AD line here, you can see there's a very substantial increase in buyers, which suggests that some of the bigger institutional players, maybe even some family offices, have stepped up to the plate. Yeah, so technically this is very interesting, very interesting. Obviously this is a big mover, hence you need a strong stomach to trade Cameco. I mean, this rally here was like 22%. If you look at this correction here, this was like minus 26%. Okay, yeah. But that also means that you could have some very big moves. Fantastic for traders. Well, let's look a bit at the seasonality of Cameco. Okay, we are now in June. June has been, between this period, characteristically not a strong month for Cameco. However, you can see that August, so heading into August, it's been good. Let's look after 2000, that's 2001. You can see that May, characteristically strong month. June, July, weaker. But August, here again, August comes back. Okay, that's interesting. Let's go after 2005. So here the seasonality is changing, but this was during a bear market. Okay, so during this vicious bear market, you can see that July was one of the strongest relevant months for us. Instead of August being strong, September is strong. Then we go to 2011. Yeah, you can see here that weakness in the spring, early summer, but then it starts to improve. And then we look at the most recent developments. You can see that, you know, of these months, you can see that June is quite clearly one of the stronger. So the seasonality is definitively a bit mixed. It's a bit of a mixed picture. Okay, let's quickly look at some fundamentals. Okay, one of the issues is the price target. So this is the analyst price target, $1086. We are at $1087, so we are basically at the price target. If you look at the dividend, 0.55%. So basically, you do get the dividend, but it's not like any impressive dividend. This is just not a dividend stock. Some nice performance here. You can see that you know, the PE is a bit elevated. The analysts are a bit mixed. 2.4 recommendation. Okay, let's have a segment about alternative energy. Okay, introduction. Okay, so in the newsletter, I do have two categories of these kinds of energies. I have what I call eco-friendly energy, and then I have alternative energy. Okay, so what is the difference? The problem with alternative energies, you know, those in that theme, is that some of them actually cause ecological harm. Hence, even though they don't have, you know, the carbon footprint of fossil fuels, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are good for the environment. Biofuels, wind and nuclear have aspects that are detrimental to the ecology, which means that there's issues. Okay, so biofuels, as an example, you need to cut down trees for energy. That's obviously not ecological. That's problematic. which is why I am not a huge biofuel bull. Wind energy. The problem with wind energy farms is that, for one thing, they are unsightly, noisy. People do not want to live around them, and also animals do not like them. You see these ecological wastelands where there are these wind energy farms. Flying animals don't like them, land animals don't like them, even fish for some reason dislike wind energy. There's something, the noises they make and the visual aspect is something that just freaks out animals. That's not good. When it comes to nuclear, there have been too many ecological disasters. But I will, talk about the merits of nuclear soon. I mean, I do think nuclear, of all of these, is the most interesting. You do have another candidate in the alternative energy space, and that is hydrogen fuel. Hydrogen is very energy dense, so there are reasons to be bullish on hydrogen, but there is actually very little natural hydrogen on Earth. Hydrogen production is not zero emissions, and whenever you are going to create an alternative to the fossil fuel business, it needs to be ecological from A to Z. And hydrogen is highly explosive. Hence, there is a major risk of PR disasters. If something goes wrong with a hydrogen car, it will go really, really wrong. We have recently had riots where cars have been set ablaze and attacked. If those were hydrogen cars, there could be some major issues. So hydrogen, yes, it is a very powerful atom. It is abundant in the universe, actually, but it might be a bit too hot to handle. In my opinion, nuclear energy is the most promising of the alternative energies. The modern plants are close to being black swan proof. The big issue with nuclear energy is that when it works really well, but when it doesn't work, it is cataclysmic. There are some questions. There's reason to think that the harms of radiation are exaggerated. Obviously, radiation is a problem, but there simply are too many experts in the field that are pretty clear that yes, radiation is a problem, but the risk is exaggerated for other reasons. As an example, Chernobyl, one of the most famous and infamous nuclear power plant disasters, it only caused 50 deaths. Multiple of those deaths were the result of the actual explosion and steam. When extremely hot steam covers the human body, it's going to cause a lot of damage. But then you have to ask the question, did the person die because of radiation or because of the extremely hot steam? And the number of these deaths that were directly caused purely by radiation is lower. You also have the issue of the geopolitics of the petrodollar and weapons of mass destruction. Not to get too conspiratorial, but the petrodollar is threatened by nuclear energy. There is a lot of power for America in sustaining the petrodollar. There just is. Energy is power politics. Nuclear energy would create a lot of energy independence. That is bad business for some people. Nuclear power plants can also be used to develop weapons of mass destruction. Hence, there are geopolitical factors here that could explain why some of the claims of radiation are exaggerated. Another aspect is that there's been explorations of sites where atom bombs have been detonated, where there's been also radiation leakages, and even though you do see higher levels of radioactivity, there is a lot of flowers in those areas, there is animal life, and the level of mutation is not at the level that is portrayed in the Hollywood movies. Just as nuclear energy, it does bring us closer to fusion energy. Okay, so fusion energy, that's like the that is super awesome. There is one major project, and that's the ITER project. It would not have happened without nuclear energy paving the way. And fusion energy, it would solve all our energy needs. But fusion energy is definitively something that will happen quite far into the future. We are talking decades until we see this come to life, will be realized. There is a need to solve the nuclear waste problem. Nuclear waste is one of the major issues with nuclear energy, which means that I categorize it as an alternative energy and not an eco-friendly energy. However, there is a lot of efforts being made to solve the nuclear waste problem. If you look at the most state-of-the-art nuclear power plants, they are pretty darn good. They seem to be foolproof. They also deal with waste in novel ways. Hence, yes, I do think nuclear energy is quite promising. Oh, time just flied. Okay, let's quickly look at S&P 500, look what's happening. Well, let's look at the futures, US 500, like that. And here we have the futures. Yes, even though there are these wild riots, people are burning down cities, the market is so euphoric that the buyers have stepped in. We are still above the 200-day moving average. Yeah, the market it's basically on drugs. It's on a total high. Supplied by the central banks, and this is going to work until it doesn't, and when it doesn't work, it's going to be very bad. This is why you should be super careful. Let the trend be your friend. I'm seeing a lot of people who were bearish now turning bullish, and as the saying goes, when all the bears are folding, that's when you get that major sell-off. Okay.